just be.
Yeah.
Let's see over this thing. I mean, it's pretty tall, but you just
There.
have to
So now, in theory,
see over it.
you all should see what they see, plus some. And you. Toothpaste. All right, we're going to try F11. No? Oops. Nope. There. That should work. Sure. Can you see it from that side?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You have to have it plugged in for about 20 minutes before.
I think it's always plugged in now.
But turned on.
Did you check on Leader Line's YouTube page?
Yeah.
And see if that's actually streaming?
Takes a while to
What other people are seeing?
Notification that it is.
Okay, excellent. Oh, yeah. Well, that's perfect, yeah, so that's the screen is being shown. Very good. Perfect. Okay.
You should phone Mike to tune in.
Is Mike still on?
He is in Manitoba.
He is in Manitoba, hey?
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was, did he move there or he's?
He's just temporarily working there.
You can't sit still.
No, he can't.
Yeah, that's right, hey. So when did he actually go?
Friday.
Oh, so he did just leave.
He phoned me. He's like, so I guess we'll see you later. What do you mean? So I'm leaving. Oh.
Thanks for telling me.
Thanks for telling me.
Ethan, would you do me a favor? Could you run and get me a mic stand? A music stand, I mean? A music stand? Okay, I'm over here now. There we go.
You know, there's one downstairs in that classroom.
Yeah.
That could be left here because it's,
Oh, yeah. I use that when I practice preaching on Fridays.
oh, is that why it's downstairs?
That's why it's
in that
downstairs, yeah.
classroom?
I go down
Okay.
there, and I can haul it up and down, but I go
Oh.
down there, and that's my
I
practice
just-
room.
Okay, that's fine then, that's good, I just didn't know.
That way nobody can hear me. If somebody comes in, I'm not,
Okay.
I still, after all these years, I preach things through
Okay,
twice.
isn't that
Yeah,
something?
I can see Shelby just over top of the projector, so that's good.
That's good.
Well, if you're joining us online, I'm trying some new software and a few odds and ends, so hopefully this all works. And you are seeing what I am seeing in front of me here, which is what they're seeing, but you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Does that make any sense? Thank you, Ethan. It will from that perspective.
You must have a pipe in your head.
Long-term mental damage. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, wherever you are. Oh, this glasses business is just driving me crazy. All right, now I can breathe again, but I can't quite see Danny. Hang on. Gotta tweak it. There we go. All right, yeah, you can watch it there. If you're here, you can watch on the screen behind you, or you can watch me. You can decide what you want to watch. Or if you have your phone in front of you, you can also watch your phone.
Wow.
So you have several options. All right. Language is meaning encoded. In other words, we encode ideas and we express meaning, but it's basically some form of code. So let me just give you a tough test here. What is the difference between a and the?
The amount of letters.
Okay, the amount of letters. Okay, good. That's good. That's, yeah, okay,
A
good.
is a vowel.
A is a vowel. Good.
Good dog.
All right, if I said a Doug or the Doug, what's the difference?
B seems to have a little bit more,
It's more specific, isn't it? So if
yeah, or,
I said there is a queen or the queen,
That means any queen?
right? A means any, right? So A is called, we call that a narthrus. It just means anything, right? A dog, a house, a wife, a phone. But if I say the dog, the wife, it's particular, right? So we know just by a single word, we can change whether we're talking about everything or something. All right, so good, you've got that concept down. All right, what if I should do this with black? All right, what does this, oh, that's not going to work. A pen versus the pen. Let's try this one.
Yeah, you can watch it 3 places.
Yeah.
Phone, real time, or the screen.
Or you can, yeah, so we've got it layered.
That's awesome.
All right. What does, sorry, can you see? I'm going to stand right in front
Oh,
of
I
you.
can see right.
Oh, perfect. What does that mean?
Stop.
Why?
It's an octagon.
Because the government says so.
Because the government said so.
That's a crokinole board.
That's right. There could be a crokinole board or it could be a stop sign, right? Somewhere along the line, we've agreed that shape, if it's what color?
Red.
Has to be red, right? So that shape and that color equals stop. You are doing great at this. So stay with me, Myrtle. It'll all make sense. All right. The test continues. What's that mean? Power. Very good.
Right, like on your-
Because this means on and this means off.
I always have trouble with that on small engines.
I do too, because that's new.
Why can't they just write on and
Well, that way, this is a European standard. Because the idea that this completes the circuit, and this is an incomplete circuit. Well, that's why there's a gap here. It's an incomplete circuit.
there's a gap?
Yeah, in this, sometimes there is. Anyhow, that's power. All right, you're doing great. Okay,
You have to be a certain age to.
got to get this right. What's that mean?
Christmas decoration.
Christmas decoration? Good. Any other ideas?
Is it female
Oh, close. If that's on a male dog tattooed onto their abdomen, what does that mean?
They're not a real man anymore.
That's right, they've been neutered.
or? Oh.
There was a young man who decided he got a dog from the rescue, and he saw that tattoo on the dog, so he decided to get his own tattoo. And he's got that tattooed on his arm now, which means he's neutered. So that way just a vet can tell. All right, you're doing great. Okay. What's that one?
Bluetooth.
Why is that Bluetooth?
That's the way it is.
Because it is named after the Danish Viking king Harald Bluetooth Gormson, who had a Bluetooth, and he united Norway and Denmark.
Wirelessly.
There's H and B.
Wow.
So if we do the H, this is the Danish letter H, and then if we add a B, that's Bluetooth.
Oh.
Right?
Is there a Viking?
Yeah, named after a Danish Viking king. All right,
Good cookie.
there are cookies as well. Time out for Doug to get a cookie. So, language is simply an agreed upon set of symbols. I'm going to write 4, this is the last part of the introduction. I'm going to write 4 symbols on the board, or I'll write 3, and then the 4th is a freebie. And you'll have to tell me why they mean what they mean. Okay? Here we go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that's what that is.
That's, I forget how to say it.
All right. How we doing? Joni, you get the next one. Ready? Help us all out. Here we go. which means?
Dog.
Right, and that's Greek for dog, that's Hebrew for dog, and that's Japanese for dog.
Oh, I thought that was fish.
Close, that's ichthus.
I suppose.
All language is an agreed upon set of meanings. The Germans have agreed that Hund is, that word is dog. And we in English said dog. The Greeks, skulos, that's a dog. The Hebrew, I'm not even going to try, and the Japanese, I'm not even going to try. But basically, groups of people get together and say, okay, that's what we agree that symbol means. Can you think of any other symbols you have on you right now that we all agree on?
The peace symbol.
Good, yeah. So peace symbol, yeah, nuclear disarmament, ND from the flags. Good. Any other symbols that we agree on?
Wedding rings.
Ah, yeah, wedding rings. Good. Any other symbols we agree on? Think
That is for farmers.
think about, yeah, where we are right now.
The random flag.
The wheat sheaf.
What room are we in?
The fellowship room.
The church?
The
Oh,
church.
cross.
Yeah. We all agree on that symbol, right?
That's the good. We should all got that.
All right, no problem. Okay.
Jesus.
Jesus, the answer is Jesus. All right. We're going to do a little introduction tonight to the great challenge, and I'll get you to pass those out. Understanding apocalyptic literature. Welcome tonight to an introduction to apocalyptic literature. Because apocalyptic literature is all about an agreed upon set of symbols and meanings. And if you don't know that a hunt, is a dog, is a skulos, you're going to get lost in this. So this basic principle is that once you agree upon a set of meanings, what can you do?
Use them.
Use them, right? For what?
Communication.
You can communicate, right? If we don't agree upon the said group meeting, so if this side of the room said, no, flub is a dog, and this side said, hunt is a dog, we couldn't communicate with each other, right? But we all agree that hunt, like a Schweinhund, that's a pig dog, right? Pig dog, yeah, is a dog. That's
How
all.
did that come about?
Yeah, that's a weird pig dog. It sort of looks like a pig, it sort of looks like a dog, it's a pig dog. But you're a pig dog. You're a pig of a man who's a dog. Not you personally. That's,
Isn't that what the Dales have, a pig dog?
They do, yeah, they have a pig
That
dog.
was Schweinman.
Yeah, that's. In other words, once we agree upon the set of meaning. Now think about in your lifetime what symbols have changed meaning.
Rainbow.
Rainbow has changed meaning.
Wow.
Good. Any other symbols that have changed meaning?
Signs on the bathroom.
What's that?
Signs on the
The
bathroom.
signs of the bathroom have changed meaning. Very good. Yeah, I always wanted to go to the one that where you get to wear a cape, but that's a dress, isn't it? The picture. It's not a man in a cape. What other symbols have changed meaning?
Well, the L and the E and the D. And
Yeah, those set of letters have changed meaning.
Now it's something else.
Yep. Yeah, the word gay has changed meaning. Remember Fred Flintstone? We'll all have a gay old time. So words change meaning, right? In England back in the 50s, what was a fag?
A cigarette.
A cigarette, right. Words change meaning. So symbols change meaning over time. So when we deal with apocalyptic literature written in Habakkuk's time, in 600 BC, symbols had meaning, but they change over time. By the time we get to the New Testament and we get to John writing the book of Revelation, the symbols but the people reading it still had the old symbols in their brain. All right. Is this helping you understand where I'm tracking? Myrtle, you're tracking with me tonight? All right. So, if you're following us online, hopefully you've got your notes that you are with us. So, we are going to return to Habakkuk next week, but before we do Habakkuk and Daniel and Revelation, we have to have this lesson, which will be repeated sometime in Sunday school. Dr. John Carter says, many different models for interpretation of this unique literary genre have been employed during this time and have led to different and conflicting conclusions as to what the Bible means or the text means. Adamant or strong adherence to some of these conclusions have come to divide and lead people astray. All right. Before we go any further, we've got to talk about genre. So when we talk about books, there's different kinds of books. And the word for kind is just genre. So, What kind of genres are there? Well, there's poetry, right? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day, for thou more lovely and more temperate? Rough winds do shake the darlings buds of May, and summer's lease has often too short a day. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dim. But every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course and trim. So long as men shall breathe and eyes shall see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Okay, there you go. Yeah, thank you. Every man should learn one sonnet.
He just said a bunch of words in the cloud. That doesn't mean nothing.
Means nothing. Poetry, right? We should all memorize one poem.
Roses are red.
And it's blue. There you go. I'm in love with a girl, and so are you.
Yeah.
And we're just very good. All right. Hey, that's a genre. It has rules.
I'm in love with the same girl.
Yeah. All right. What's another genre? It'd be fiction. Okay. What's fiction? Not real. Stories, right? Made up stories. Okay. What's another genre? Non-fiction, which is true, not stories. Okay. Any other genres? Well, there's fantasy, which would be a subcategory. Mystery, yeah, they have. So we understand that genres are types or schools, and you wouldn't apply the same rules to reading if you started applying nonfiction rules to reading fiction, what would happen to you?
You'd believe a lie.
You'd believe a lie, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you understand this concept that different kinds of writing have different kinds of rules. Well, in the Bible, there's genres of literature as well. There's historical. Books like the Gospels, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, they're all the histories, right? Chronicles, Kings, they're told from different perspectives, but they're still history, right? Then there's poetry, or the writings. So, Psalms, Proverbs, those are the old poetry books. Then there are the prophets. Then we talk about the Gospels. And then we talk about the epistles, which are the letters that Paul wrote. And a letter has a different genre, right? And then there is the one we are going to focus on this fall, and that's apocalyptic.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, dun, dun,
Does
dun,
you have
dun.
to say that?
Yeah, you feel good when you say apocalyptic. That's funny you say that, Joyce, because that's exactly what it's rooted in. So if I was to say that we are studying the Apocalypse of John, what book are we studying? And therefore, apocalypse means, what did you just say? The word you just said, the book of revealing, the book of Revelation. Apocalypse means revelation, and revelation means apocalypse. It's the same word. All right. So these books are the books of Revelation. So Habakkuk is a revelation. So you could say this is the revelation of Habakkuk. You could say this is the revelation of Daniel. This is the revelation of Isaiah, of Jeremiah, or the revelation of John. So the word apocalypse simply means revelation. So when we talk about apocalyptic literature, we're talking about books that reveal. But reveal what? What did you just say before, Joyce? Mysteries and secrets. Yeah. So apocalyptic literature is a very specific kind of literature where the Gospels reveal, they reveal truth. History reveals, they reveal events. Apocalyptics reveal future. Yeah, dun dun dun. What is yet to come. Very good. And where a prophet would reveal what's currently the problem, although he might reveal a little bit of the future. But apocalyptics are solid. All right. How do people handle the book of Revelation? What are some ways people handle it? Well, some people just take it literally. So, turn to Revelation chapter 7, verse 1. Right near the end. Revelation. By the way, this is the book that we have the fewest copies of, because when they made the manuscripts, if they sat them on a shelf, what's the book on the bottom? Revelation. It would get rotted, or if it was a scroll and they rolled it up, what book is on the outside? Revelation. So that's the book we have the fewest copies of, just because of physical damage. So, all right. Does somebody have a King James tonight? What?
Real quick.
Yeah. You look up Revelation 7:1 in the King James. Nope, that's not good. Here.
7:1, you say?
Yes, please.
And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth.
Good, stop right there. So if you were to take Revelation literally, what would that tell you about the earth?
The earth is flat.
The earth is
I
flat.
knew it.
It's not only flat, it's
Square.
a
It's
square.
square.
Or
It's
me,
square.
it's a square, a flat square.
I knew it.
I knew it. See, they were right. The flat earth people are right.
They're
If you
wrong
s-
when they say it's round.
Yeah, they're wrong. It's a square. It's like a pizza box, not the
Bible
pizza.
people.
Yeah. So if you took Revelation literally, that's one way people look at it. Well, everything's literal. It's red and it says rainbow. It means a rainbow. If it says red, it means if it's a lamb, it means a lamb. It's literal. What do you end up with? Confusion and heresy. You end up with error, right? Like the man in the story says, I'm here to tell you, sir, the earth is not round, regardless of what you scientists say. After all things, I saw 4 angels on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. There you go. 4 winds, 4 corners, 4 angels, earth is a square. You can't take these things literally.
And they're holding the wind back.
Yeah, they're sleeping on the job, Doug. They're not. So some people take it literally, and that's the wrong. Some people apply the images from within the specific text and ignore the broader biblical images. They just say, well, here it means. You're going, no, the Bible interprets the Bible. So if it's a throne here, it's probably a throne over here. So we must use Scripture to interpret Scripture. So when there's an angel, there's an angel. So we have to study it in the broader context. Fourthly, they apply modern images to it. So they say, oh, that must be this. So John the Apostle John sees they had wings and they spit fire and they had a tail. That's a helicopter, right? You know, has to be. You know? So they apply modern imagery. What's that? It probably, yeah. So they apply modern imagery. And go, no, it doesn't work. And the fourth way I think that most people deal with the apocalypse is they ignore it. That's the easiest way to think, oh,
It's just entertainment value.
yeah, it makes good movies and books, right? I do like what one man said. He said, reading Revelation and these apocalyptic books is like eating the fish. You know, you set the bones on the side of the plate and you eat the meat. So that's kind of my overarching. All right, let's take a look at some definitions here. Apocalyptic literature is a genre of revelation literature within a story or a narrative framework in which the revelation is mediated or given to the hearer by an otherworldly agent. So Ezekiel gets an angel that comes to him. John meets an angel. In other words, the hearer is oftentimes in prophecy, who is the agent speaking to the prophet? The Lord said to me, right? They get firsthand from God. Often in apocalyptic literature, an angel or a secondary agent reveals it to them. There's always often a mediator. And so John says, I was praying in the Lord's day, I had a vision of the heavens, and an angel came and spoke to me. Okay? So there's usually a mediator that's involved there. And this mediator discloses some great transcendent reality and sees it. So while prophecy was written to people in need of repentance, apocalyptic literature is written to people in need of reassurance. When we look at what's happening, and we will, in Revelation and Daniel and these books, these aren't people, they're not calls to repentance for the most part. They are people either in slavery or bondage or fear. So one of the key purposes we'll get to tonight's object lesson is that one of the key reasons we write prophecy is to call people to repentance. Because, Dylan? Fire, right. Apocalyptic literature calls people who already are in the fire, who need hope. And so that's why they're written. And we'll come to that key factor later on. It comes from the Greek word apocalyptic, meaning to reveal. So go to Revelation 1:1.
Just a reaction.
It's like a switch now. Revelation, Harlan, you got Revelation 1:1?
This book
Yep.
reveals some of the future activities soon to occur in the life of Jesus Christ.
Good. It does what? It reveals. Anybody else have a different translation in 1 verse 1?
Unveiled.
Unveils. Good. Unveils.
The revelation of Jesus Christ.
Okay. So an unveiling is a revelation, right? I reveal it. Dun, da-da. That's the revelation. An unveiling. A disclosure. And so all these words are the same. So sometimes you'll see the apocalypse of John, the revelation, the unveiling or the revealing of the Apostle John. So, or it can mean uncover something. To make known. Very good. All right. Let's take a look, first off, at 9 common characteristics, say that 3 times fast, 9 common characteristics of apocalyptic. You got your notes in front of me? We're on the next page. All right, and we'll save me reading all of them. I was going to call you Janet for some reason. Wow, Shelley, sorry. Janet, would you read number 1?
Number what?
Number 1, please.
The writer tends to choose some great men of the past, i.e. Enoch or Moses, and make him the hero of the book.
So Ezekiel is the hero of the story. Revelation, John is he's the agent of the story. So often there's a great person who meets an angel and has Daniel, right? He has these visions. So they're often centered around, just like prophecy is centered around one person. Good. Harlan, you want to read number 2?
The hero often takes a journey accompanied by a celestial guide who shows him.
Yeah.
Sights and comments on them.
Good. Think about Isaiah 6. Isaiah says, I was where? I was in the temple, right? And I heard the angels cry, holy, holy, holy is the Lord. So the hero our character takes a journey. Where does John journey to?
The island.
Yeah, the island of Patmos. But from there he journeys where? Into the heavens, right?
Oh, yeah.
And into the future. Daniel journeys into the future. He goes on this journey into these. Ezekiel goes to the valley of dry bones, right? So they're on a journey, and this celestial host takes them to this new place where they see. So that's how they kind of journey on their thing. Myrtle, number 3.
Information is often communicated through visions.
So John says, I had a vision of the Lord, right? Good. Doug.
The visions often make use of strange, even enigmatic symbolism.
Good. Things that are like just kind of quirky and off, and it's kind of odd and weird. And they see this horse, this bear with 5 bones in his mouth. They see a dragon with 3 heads. So in their vision, they see these supernatural and unusual, sometimes non-earthly, sometimes earthly, a bear with bones, sometimes non-earthly, and they see all this wild stuff. All right.
Why complicated?
Well, we'll see it's not that complicated, but it seems to be complicated. Because big ideas need,
Confusion.
hopefully not confusion. And by the time we get to the end, yeah, you're ahead of my curve, Doug. You are so far, you're 9 pages in already.
I got a pipe in my
Okay, Joyce? That's a Doug and I thing. We'll stay with us.
The visions
You won't
often,
get it.
the visions often are pessimistic with regard to the possibility that human intervention will ameliorate
Close enough.
the present situation.
Solve or bring to peace. The situation is so grand and so powerful that no human could intervene. The stakes in apocalyptic visions get higher and higher. In prophetic, the stakes, how can humans solve the problem for the most part? Repent, right? The stakes are high, but humans have they have a part to play, right? In apocalyptic visions, they don't. It's so grand. Okay? Danny.
The vision usually ends with God bringing the present state of affairs to a cataclysmic end and establishing a better situation.
So prophecies often end in repentance, where apocalyptics end in cataclysm. You know what I mean by cataclysm? These huge fires, big earthquakes and floods and all this kind of stuff, right? So that's why this is different than prophecy. Prophecy often ends in a peaceful solution. Nineveh repents, and all is well. There's no apocalypse. Now, there was a threat of cataclysmic. But in prophecy, in apocalyptic literature, it often ends in the Battle of Megiddo. You know, blood as deep as the horse's bridle. That's a pretty cataclysmic event. Okay, Dylan.
The apocalyptic writer often uses a pseudonym, claiming to write in the name of his chosen hero.
So sometimes they'll just use another name and they'll say, I was. By the way, there's a lot of apocalyptic books that aren't in the Bible. They were very popular in Israel around the 6th century. So a lot of people would say, I was, his name was Fred. And he says, well, I was actually, Daniel. So we'll see sometimes they're written under ghostwriters. Jody?
The writer often takes past history and rewrites it as if it were prophecy.
That's one of the keys. They'll talk about the past events and tell the story, or present events, and in doing so they establish the symbols, what they mean, because we know what they mean. And then he goes into the future. We go, so if I described the events of World War II, Hiroshima, the bomb dropping, the sun fell from the heavens, and the sky turned red like blood. Right? You go, Okay, that's an atomic bomb going off and the sun turning red. You'd have an understanding of the symbol because you understood the history, right? And they'll say, and in the future, the stars will fall from the heavens. You go, do you understand how that works? By knowing the past, and I take the past historical event, attach a symbol to it, and then when I move into the future, make sense? You know what the symbol is because you know the past. So that's how often. So Revelation and most of these books begin with past events. John says, I write to the churches. He uses present, right? The 7 churches. You're this, you're this, you're this, you're that. We go, we know those churches. And he calls one, you tolerate the whore. There. Oh, okay. She's going to be later on in the story. So that's how they work. All right. So they're trying to make it not as complicated. And this is how they teach us. All right, Ethan.
The focus of apocalyptic is on comforting and sustaining the righteous remnant.
All right, put a pin in that phrase because we're going to come to that at the very end, which Doug is already at. All right, so how do people study the apocalypse? How do they, the method of interpretation? When we study the Gospels, what method do we use? How does our brain work? We say this is literal. This is history. This is literal. These are real people. So it's not fiction. So we apply a very historical, contextual understanding to the Gospels. There was a man named Jesus who was born of a woman who was a virgin. We don't say, well, that was a metaphor. She really just had never kissed a boy before, you know. We say, no, when it says virgin, it means she'd never had a baby before, right? When we say Jesus walked on water, right? What does that mean? Doesn't mean he kind of, he was so head and shoulders everybody, he just walked on water. No. So we apply a certain set of rules to the Gospels, okay? Well, people have a set of rules that they apply to the apocalypse as well. The first one is called the Preacherous Method. You're going to have so much vocabulary when you're done here that this is like third year Bible school, right, Ethan? Yeah.
Yeah.
Preacherous. Oh man, I got to do that better. It's a video.
What is that word?
Preterist. All it means is that all the events of the apocalypse have already happened. It's prehistory. Past, exactly. It's all done. So anything that John mentions in Revelation, it's happened already. This book was written for them in their time. There's no future events. It's just all. So preterist has no problem reading the text because they just read backwards. Babylon is Rome, is code word for Rome. The Antichrist is Nero, who persecuted them. The mark of the beast is the mark of Rome on the legionaries' arms. All this stuff, right? So a preterist simply says it's already happened, which is very easy then to interpret everything because you don't have to worry about the future. All right. So that's one honest school of thought. A lot of people, not, there's certainly some that hold that. All right. The opposite of that is then the futurists. So a preterist believes everything's in the pre-past. A futurist then would believe everything's in the future, right? So this says that everything's going to happen yet. The symbolism and imagery may be symbolic, they may be literal, and they can argue that the symbolism is an attempt by the author to describe things he's never seen before. So a futurist looks at Revelation and says, it's all future. It's all going to come yet. Probably many of you grew up in a futurist school of thought. People said Revelation is all about the future, right? Not about the present. So that's a futurist. Then there's a historicist. They graze on grasshoppers, I think. It sounds like a dinosaur name. Historicists. Historicists hold the events described in the text are directly related to the world events that some are historical and some are future. All right, take a look at the book of Revelation. Those opening 7 churches. John writes to the church in Patmos, the church in Smyrna, the church. Were they future events or present events? Present. He's writing to churches, right? And because they were present when John wrote them, they are now passed to us. So some of the events of Revelation are in the past. Some of the events are in the future. Do you agree with that? That makes you a historicist. You would say some of the events of the book of Daniel are in the past. Daniel will prophesy the coming of the Persian Empire, the coming of the Greek Empire, the coming of the Roman Empire, then the 10 toes, which we are yet to come. So if you hold that Daniel's vision in Daniel chapter 3, some of them are historical, some of them are future. That makes you a... You didn't know that before you came. Tonight, welcome. We are probably historicists. And I'll play my hand early on. I'm a historicist. Sagittarius, all right. So that's a historicist. Then there's idealists. You see the ist little word there making sense? All right, idealists don't tie any of the events to historical or actual literal events or future events. Everything is a spiritual truth. There's no history. It's all just a spiritual truth. So when we talk about dragons, what would an idealist say? What would a dragon represent?
China.
Evil, just in general, just ideals, right? Yeah, a futurist might say China, a historicist might say China, a preacherist might say 5th century China, but an idealist would just say evil. It just represents general evil. What's that? Fire, yeah. And fire doesn't represent fire. Fire just represents judgment. So idealists look at these things and say, they actually don't represent anything. They represent ideas. Jerusalem versus Babylon is good versus evil. Anywhere and everywhere. What's the advantage of this view? You can make it say whatever you want. You never get painted into a corner. You never have to make a decision or make a call. It's like, oh, no, it's just about good and evil. The mark of the beast, well, that's just about how people think and how they act towards each other. You know, it's not a literal mark. Oh, it's just, oh yeah, you know, or if you buy into the world, you know, so that's an idealist. So when they look at the book of Revelation and all that, they just look at it. And that's, by the way, a very popular way to do it in certain churches. If you, and I won't name names, but this is a school of thought.
So I don't think there's an actual mark.
No. It's just an idea.
It says you can't buy or sell without the mark.
Yeah, they'd say, well, unless you really buy into the world system, you know, of the importance of currency and economy, you can't buy unless you buy into capitalism as a principle. So yeah, I'm agreeing with you, Doug, but they would say, you're really talking about the ideals of capital, consumerism versus communism versus socialism. Like in communist Russia, you couldn't buy or sell unless you believed in communism. So the mark of the beast would be accepting communism as a path. Do you see how slippery this is?
But they don't have an actual mark.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Well, the mark is just a symbol. It's an idea in your head. No, it's not. But that's how the idealists are on very shaky ground, and they're very slippery because they move, right? They're very chameleons. I have a feeling this lesson may last more than an hour. That's good. All right. And then there's just understanding it as apocalypse, which is we seek to determine the literal meaning of the images. And so you would probably be an apocalyptic historicist. All right. Okay, so that's kind of how people have addressed it. Let's take a look at some guidelines, some tools we can use to understand so it's not so confusing and slippery. And so we don't have to default to idealism or to preterism. We can actually say, no, these things represent things yet to come. As Huxley would say, the shape of things to come. Number one rule, pay attention to symbols. And we'll use some illustrations tonight yet. Apocalyptic literature is all about symbols. Symbols, because stuff can have two meanings, right? All right, both Myrtle and Harlan are wearing purple tonight. What does purple symbolize?
Royalty.
Royalty, exactly. You are royal. So in apocalyptic literature, if we see someone dressed in purple, we're going to assume they are
Jesus.
royalty. Jesus, yeah. What does red symbolize usually? Evil, blood, death, right? Unless it's Jesus. But it always symbolizes blood. So if we see Jesus with a red ruby or a red stone, that's probably talking about a symbol of his blood, right? So symbols are the key to this whole thing. Once you understand the symbols, the books unlock themselves. But here's the problem with symbols. What did we say at the very beginning? Symbols have to be agreed upon. Interpretation, they change in history. And if we don't agree upon the symbol, then we can't communicate. So, a horse. What is a horse a symbol of?
Power.
Power. Good. So what is a donkey a symbol of? Stupidity? All right, let's stick with Myrtle's. Donkey equals stupidity. This is a wonderful illustration, Myrtle. Donkey equals stupidity. Okay, we're stuck with her interpretation. We're going to follow this no matter where it goes in the Bible. We're stuck because the prophet has, no, the sister has spoken.
The sister has spoken.
So, donkey equals stupid. So anytime I see the word donkey in the Bible, I can substitute the word stupid. So Jesus rode in on a stupid. Oh no! Exactly. It wrecks it, doesn't it?
More humble.
Yeah.
Ah, very good. Because now we go into the prophets who talk about your king will come riding humbly on a donkey. Right? So donkey is, what would poor people ride? Donkey. What do powerful people ride? Horses. Yeah. Because wealthy, because horses, horses are tall and you look down. So if someone's proud, what do you say to them?
Get off your high horse.
Get off your high horse. Exactly. Get off your high cow. Yeah. Camel. Oh yeah, that doesn't work either. So how we agree on the symbol changes the meaning. So Jesus rides in on a donkey, which symbolizes humility, servanthood, and the fulfillment of prophecy. If he rode in on a white horse, what would that be a symbol of? Purity would be the white part. Power and authority.
And isn't he going to come back then?
How does he come back? On a white horse.
Black cloud riding.
Yes, comes riding in the white horse. So the symbol, we know, but we have to agree on this. That's why this whole thing rides on symbols. And if we disagree on the symbol, what happens to our understanding? We end up with a heretic in front of us because Jesus rode in on a stupid. So I'm not calling you a heretic, Myrtle. But it's a beautiful illustration of the error.
And last Sunday she almost got ordained.
I know, it was Sister Myrtle. So, this will become absolutely critical. Now, here's the question. Who determines the nature of a symbol or what a symbol means? Who gets to decide?
It's a group.
A group, so sometimes it's a collective as a society. Who else?
The creator of the symbol.
The creator of the symbol, right. Sometimes a author or an author. All right, I got to just find my
I feel
notes
like
here.
he's had a class on this before.
That was way too much of a, I've heard this
You
before.
can't pull that out of the air.
Is it in the notes? It's in the notes, isn't it?
It's actually not in the notes. I really did pull it out of the air. All right, here's a symbol. In the 1980s, and it was in my notes, I lost my notes.
You need to set, you were just throwing, is it on the table here?
Oh, yeah.
Here, on the table.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Glasses. Maybe glasses. Oh, I don't have these notes. All right, doesn't matter. Maybe I put it in these notes. Hang tight. Here we go. Yep, here we go. 1982, September 19th, 1982. Scott Fulham, the author, he was communicating on the old-style computer keyboards with just letters, and he wanted to tell somebody he was happy. He wrote a semicolon, a dash, and a bracket. And that was the first emoticon, first emoji. Yeah. And the next day he was writing somebody he was mad. Semicolon, and he reversed the bracket. And thus was born emoticons. Right? The author determined the meaning. And then the crowd said, that makes perfect sense. And they confirmed it. Right? So emoticons were born out of... so oftentimes a symbol is born by the author, and sometimes it's born by the audience. So who has supremacy, though, over the symbol? Usually. Yeah, the creator. The creator controls the symbols. The heavens do what? The heavens declare the glory of God. The heavens are symbols of what? How do we know that? Because God said so. God said, you want to know what the stars are for? They declare my glory. We say, oh, okay. So what did humans do? They said, no, the stars mean a horse and a set of scales and a fish
And a big scoop.
and a big scoop. Right.
And a little scoop.
Yeah, and God said, no, that's not what they're there for. And we said, no, the stars govern our destiny, we're going to create this thing. God says, no, that's not what the stars are for. So we can warp the meaning, right? So the symbols, whoops, are gone there. The author determines the nature of the symbol. And who's the author of Revelation? John. Yeah, John. And ultimately God, right? So we have to understand it. So symbolism, pay attention to the symbols. And then, all right, number 2. The original audience. What are the 3 C's of biblical interpretation? Context, and context. All right. If you were writing a letter to a friend of yours and telling them that you were tired, what symbol might you use? Don't use the word tired. I'm what? Sleepy. Okay, but think of a symbol. Like,
Z, Z, Z.
you might use Z, 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 Z. Good. What else might you say?
Sometimes, like the moon or something, so
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Or you might use a word picture, right? I'm bushed. That's a weird one, hey? Yeah. Or,
Doesn't make sense, does it?
yeah. Or I'm as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, right? So we have to understand what the original. Now, that's an odd phrase, long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking. If you've never seen a cat, you don't know what that is. If you don't, anyhow. So we have to understand what the audience would understand the meanings to be, right? So when I speak to you on Sunday morning, I often use agricultural metaphors. Right? Do you ever notice that's exactly what Jesus did? He used. Think of all the metaphors, agricultural metaphors Jesus used. Parables are stories about people, right? He called himself the great shepherd. He called people sheep. He used agricultural metaphors all the time. He doesn't say, those gladiators. It's just like that. No. Jesus never uses urban or pop culture metaphors. Paul, what metaphors does Paul use? We wrestle not with flesh and blood. I beat the air as one who doesn't miss the mark. I run the race. He uses Olympic metaphors like crazy. Right? Paul uses urban metaphors. Only once does Paul call people sheep. He calls them brothers and sisters. He calls them citizens. He calls them adopted. For Jesus, citizenship in Jerusalem meant nothing. Citizenship was a foreign concept to them. It was crafted by the Romans, brought into them. So we understand that the audience determines the symbols we use, right? So Paul writes to an urban audience. Uses urban and military, and Jesus writes to a rural audience. So if I'm speaking to a rural audience, what should I be doing?
Speaking a language.
Yeah. So if I said, Myrtle, in the 3rd episode of Star Wars, when Luke reaches out, and are you tracking with me? Not in the least. I remember telling a Star Wars story one time, and one of our Silver Saints came up and said, never seen the movie? No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Fair enough, All right, so understand the audience, what they thought. So when the people in Revelation heard the mark of the beast, they knew what he was talking about. Because every Roman soldier had branded on their arm the mark of Rome. People in the citizens, the Senate and the people of Rome, SPQR. It was on all their flags. The Senate and the people qua Romana. The Senate and the people of Rome. And they would have either that or they would have their legion number embossed on their arms. So Paul says, don't make fun of me. I bear on my body the marks of Christ. What does he say? He says, I've got my legion marks branded on me already. I am a soldier of Jesus. Don't make fun of me. He says, I'm a veteran. But in his case, it was his stripes, from his beatings, right? He compared those to the marks the Roman soldiers would carry. Right? He says, I bear on my body the mark of Jesus, as every legionnaire would bear on their body the mark of Rome. Right? So when they say, the mark of the beast, their brain would probably start to go to this, right? And then John says, you understand that, but there's also the mark of Jesus on your
He
forehead.
was getting whipped, and I wonder was going through his head, because he did that.
Yeah.
Like, he killed Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you wonder if he thought, maybe I deserve this?
Because it's got to come back.
Yeah. He who had once done it was now on the receiving end of that. Yeah, that's very good, Doug. So,
You are.
So, understand the audience. We just can't transplant apocalyptic literature into our own culture. We have to read it from the culture and the history of the people that it was written to. That's why we study history. That's why we study symbols in history. So, today, what does a bull symbolize?
What?
A bull.
Market's going up.
The market's going up, right. Why? Why is a bull the symbol of the market going up?
Aggressive.
Yeah, because bulls toss you in the air. What does a bear do?
Kill you.
He knocks you down, right, with his paw. So a bear market is going down, and a bull market goes up, right? Because bulls toss and bears swat, right? So bears and bulls. What else do bulls symbolize? Strength, yeah, Lamborghini, right? So we understand. But in Paul's day, the bull was the god Mithra, and they would worship the bulls. They would have a pit, and you would stand underneath it, and they would put a bull above you, and they would slit its throat, and the blood would pour through the grate, and you'd be baptized in the blood. Very grisly society, right? And along comes Paul and says, I'll take that image, washed in the blood. And they're going, well, it's Mithra worship. Paul says, nah. So he takes an image from the culture and shifts it over, always speaking to the culture, right? To the audience, using symbols of the culture. Today, if you wanted to describe being cleansed, would you say washed in blood? No. What would you do to be a symbol of purity and cleansing? What symbol would you use?
Snow.
Snow, yeah, good. As a Canadian, whiter than snow. What else? What other? So let's substitute blood for our culture as a symbol of purity and cleanliness. It has to be a liquid.
A vaccine.
Vaccine, well, maybe. Just hand sanitizer,
Bleach.
Bleach? Yeah, bleach would work too, right? So, what's that? Spray 9, yeah, spray 9. So, always understand your audience. All right, sorry, I belabored that point. That horse is now resting.
99.9%
Exactly. Yeah, HIV is even done. How we doing for time? All right, number 3. Don't overanalyze the symbols. This is one of the worst faults people have when they study apocalyptic literature. They want to get so deep into that symbol that, man, everything. So Jesus, yeah.
Don't overthink it.
That's right. Rewrite this, don't overthink it. All right, so Jesus, think of a parable of Jesus. Tell me one of the parables. Okay, sower in the seed, good. Sower went out to sow, some fell on good ground. All right, so that's good. What is that parable about?
Some seed falls on good ground.
Yeah, so people who listen.
Gospel.
Yeah, the seed is the word, and some people hear it and they respond well. What's the next symbol?
Some falls in the weeds.
Some falls in the weeds. The cares and the concerns of the things of this world choke out so it cannot grow. Good.
Thistles.
Some falls, that's the thistles. Some falls on hard ground, which is hard hearts. And some falls on ground, and the ravens come and eat it, and that is? Satan, right? Some fall, shallow, hard time. So you understand the symbols, right? All right. What does the sower's bag represent?
Church.
The church, okay, good. What do the sower's sandals represent?
The church.
We're overthinking this, right? I'm forcing you to overthink it.
The missionaries.
The missionaries. In other words, Jesus says, the parables have one point. Don't overthink them. I wonder what the button that held the bag closed. That represents your tongue. And people you'll hear preachers go, well, this represents this. The rope that held the boat where Jesus stood, that represents no, it doesn't. Just stop. Doug, don't overthink it. And what people do is they get into these apocalyptic sins. Oh, the bear, he had brown hair. Brown represents chocolate. That's Denmark. Who makes it? The Swiss make the best chocolate. So the bear, it's just
Switzerland.
Yeah, they're evil.
Neutral.
Yeah, exactly. So don't overthink it. Don't stress the symbols too hard. They often have one meaning. If parts are detailed, when we'll look at on Sunday, Daniel, the head, the torso, the waist, then the 10 toes at the bottom. So he breaks it down to the components that we have to study. He doesn't describe the circumference of the bicep on the statue, right? Because that might, so don't overthink. All right, number 4. Think about the writer's purpose. Again, we'll get to that later on. Why is he writing? And especially on Sunday school, we're going to talk about why Nebuchadnezzar has the dream he does. The purpose of the dream is critical. And fifthly, Bring a guide. Dylan.
Symbolism is one of the main things that makes apocalyptic literature so unique. It also makes apocalyptic literature notoriously challenging to read and understand. Instead of wading into it alone, you can stand on the backs of Bible scholars and draw from centuries of analysis done by some of the church's best theologians.
In other words, bring a guide. Don't be afraid to read other people's opinions. You may not agree with them, but they may provide some insight. Paul Spilsbury's book, The Throne, the Lion, and the Dragon, one of the best books on Revelation ever. Right? Fantastic. Not that big. Just a great book, right? So read good books. Be careful who you're reading, because some people have a very, you can pick up like a Hal Lindsey book, right? I'm not sure if I'd take Hal Lindsey along as a guide. Or, what's his name? The guy who wrote Grant Jeffries, and, I wouldn't do those as an exegetical guide to the book of Revelation. They're semi-fiction, right? What are those Christian books he wrote? Left Behind.
Oh.
Yeah. I wouldn't pick up Left Behind as my guide. It's entertaining, and it's like a movie that says based on historical facts. Maybe loosely based. All right. We've still got 10 minutes. Okay, let's take a look at how this works. It is written with symbolism, poetry, and images. Those are the big three, right? As well as all kinds of it's a mishmash of all kinds of things. So let's take an example. I already did it with the bull. The English word bull, it normally means a male cow, but in context, it's not just a farm animal. It can mean someone who's aggressive, the upswing of the stock market, or someone who's clumsy, or it can mean a liar. You're full of bull. Right? So we have to be very careful about, there's a, anyhow, joke, but I'm not going to tell it. All right.
Good call.
There's a time and a place. It's just about flies eating bologna. And never fly off the handle when you're full of bologna. That was the punchline. So, all right. Metaphors and symbols. Welcome back to school. Henry should be here. All right. A simile uses like or as. So let's use a simile for, I haven't picked on Joni tonight. You are as cheery as a summer day. I like that. That's good, right? That's a simile. Anytime we use like. He's like a bull, this man. She's like a flower. Can you give me any other similes?
Henry would say, hungry as a horse.
Hungry as a horse. Sure.
Everything is a horse.
Everything's a horse. Strong as an ox. Yeah. What's that? You need peanut butter. Yeah. Sticky as peanut butter. Right. What's the power of a simile? Yeah, it's direct comparison. Right? Strong as a horse. As an ox. Okay, strong as an ox. Good. It's one-to-one. It's not as hairy as an ox. We're not worried about how color of the ox, how old the ox is. All we want is strength. The beauty of a simile is it's direct. One-to-one correlation between the image and the idea. A metaphor is if I said, Harlan's an ox. What does that mean? Harlan, you ox, you. What does that possibly mean?
Could be hairy.
Could be hairy. Could have big shoulders. Strong. Stubborn, a little bullheaded. Good. Yeah. Likes to lay in the sun and, on a summer day, lay and eat grass, Yeah, who knows, right? Yeah, chases flowers. That's a Disney one, right? What's the weakness of a metaphor?
Other people can interpret it.
Exactly. What's the power of a metaphor?
You can convey a strong message.
It can trace it, yeah, and all kinds of elements, right? So when we don't say Jesus is like a lamb. We say Jesus is the Lamb of God. Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world, John the Baptist said, right? He didn't say, behold one like a lamb or as a lamb. And he conveyed all the power of that metaphor. Now, why did they know what he meant?
Because they knew what lamb was.
Exactly. Culture. Because they understood sacrifice. They had been to the Day of Atonement. They had seen the blood of the lambs posted on their doorposts. They had this rich metaphoric vocabulary in the background. And so one of the things with it, as we get into this, are similes and metaphors. All right. Apocalyptic literature. Here we go. When reading John's Apocalypse, we should keep in mind, first off, it was written to Christians who are undergoing persecution. probably at least 2 generations. It's probably written around 70 AD or 90, well, probably by 90, right? So these people have been Christians for probably at least 40 or 50 years. So they've been undergoing persecution for a long time. So John is writing to a persecuted people. Secondly, it's written to give them encouragement and purpose during a difficult time, and it uses symbols that they would have understood for the most part. And here's where John gets tricky. Every once in a while he sees something that he doesn't understand, and he's trying to describe it. Ezekiel sees a wheel within a wheel, a chariot that goes wherever it goes. Yeah, so Ezekiel sees a wheel within a wheel, or is it a wheel within a wheel?
Planetary.
It's probably a planetary gear, right? So what did Ezekiel see? He doesn't know what he sees. He just sees a throne that moves around in 4 different directions. And it's got wheels within wheels, and it's self-propelled. And then he sees angels with 6 wings covered in eyes. And he says, it looked like 6 wings covered in eyes, and I always love the little cherubims that we use. No wonder angels said, why are you so afraid? This thing comes down. This thing comes down with a head of an ox, a head of a man, a head of a lion, a head of a thing. It's got 6 wings covered in eyes. It says, don't be afraid.
No wonder they sent you out of heaven.
Yeah, exactly. You're the messenger. So sometimes John the audience would have understood the metaphors very clearly. Sometimes he moves into unknown waters. I saw a thing with a scorpion tail that had the head of a lion. We don't know what he's seeing. So you may not know the symbol, but you'll always know the purpose. So what's the purpose of those beasts? To inflict pain and suffering. I don't know what it is.
That one, the body of the lion, tail of scorpion, wings of an eagle.
Yeah.
They actually built that sculpture. What is it in BC?
Probably.
It was in that's actually built.
Yeah.
And it's a statue, something symbolizing peace.
No, it symbolizes torment.
Well, the thing that they built.
Yeah.
They built it, and that's what
Wow.
they said on it. I gotta find that again, but it's
Wow.
built.
Right. And the fact is, we simply don't always know how people understood the symbols. We're not first century Christians, right? All right, but let's take some example. Let's take example number 1 here. Numbers. All right, here we go. Numbers are fun. All right. 6. Okay, first off, what does 7 symbolize? Perfection. Right. Who gets number 7? Whose number is that? Not a hockey player, by the way. Jesus, yeah, he gets 7. That's right, he's 7, he's perfect, right? 7 is God's number. Because why do we know this? From Genesis. 7 days, the days of creation, right? 7 is the number of perfection and completion. So if you get 6 as your number, what are you? You're not quite perfect, but you're trying to be. You're sin. You're striving, right? 6 is short of perfection. So and 3 is the number of perfection, again, completion. So if your name is 666, what are you? You are perfectly sinful. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so he's perfectly sinful, right? He's all as sinful as he can be, right? Complete and pure, no evidence of good, complete depravity. So whoever this person is, the number of his name, he is completely corrupt, completely sinful, completely depraved. He is the perfection of evil. Where the lamb is 777, the perfection of good, right? 12. That's you. Did you just text me? Yeah. That's when I get a note from Dylan, that's what it says. If I touch you, it'll be most unpleasant. Sorry, it's Skeletor from He-Man. I should change that. All right, what's 12? Complete. The 12 apostles, the 12 tribes, the 12 is always the number of completion, right? 12 tribes, 12 disciples. So if you have 12 times 12, 144, what does that symbolize? 12 times 12.
People in heaven, the 144,000.
The ultimate completion.
Oh.
Yeah. So if 12 is complete, and you got 12 12s,
That's even more complete.
That's even more complete. Yeah, it is. That's exactly
Completer.
It's like the perfect complete. And you got 144,000, that means the perfect complete, that's the perfect number of people. That's the perfect tribe of people. It doesn't necessarily mean 144,000, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
How are you trying to count?
You gotta tell JWs that.
Oh, I know, yeah. And then there's no women in that number, by the way. It's all men, if you read Revelation. So no woman gets to go to heaven if you're a JW.
Then what's the point?
Well, heaven without women? All right.
No chocolate.
No chocolate. Can't be. The Swiss?
Squirrel.
Squirrel, yes. 1,000 was the largest number they knew.
Wow.
Nobody thought 1,000 and one.
You could have, okay, in Roman numerals, what's 1,000? M. Meeting.
That's right.
Maybe. So if it's the 20th century, that's 2,000. You want 3,000? 4,000?
It just gets better.
Just get a lot of M in it, up to a certain point, right? Because Roman numerals aren't based on, they have no numbers. They have letters, right? Romans don't have numbers. So this is, sorry, I should be right-handed. This is what in Roman numerals?
1, 2, 3. Keep going.
B, 4.
4,
B is a 5.
5,
B1 is 6. 7, 8.
9,
And 10.
10.
11, 12, 11.
I can't remember
You
14.
get a V,
Oh yeah, XV.
XVI.
just XV is.
Yeah, that's 15.
15. The 14 would be XVI, I wouldn't.
Yeah. Now we're into,
Oh, right, yeah.
now we're 16. Yeah, XIV would be 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have numbers. But what's numbers missing? Think about it. All the way up to 50. No 0. Huh. There's no 0 in Roman numerals. Zeros came from India. Why? Right, nothing. Because a Roman can't think of nothing. We're engineers, we're builders, we're soldiers. There's never nothing. You can't have nothing. When would you count nothing? I got 5 bags of grain, you got no bags? That's none.
Yeah, you do or you don't.
That's right. Yeah, there is no no.
You have none. No, you don't have.
That's right. So that's not a thing.
Yeah.
If you don't have, you don't, it's not a thing. In Hinduism, we create nirvana, which is the concept of nothingness. So we have to create a symbol for it. And nothingness goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. It's a circle. Right? It's never ending. And so the Romans don't have zeros. And they don't have numbers bigger than 1,000. Because in practical terms, if you're counting things, 1,000 is a pretty big, okay, we're almost done. Yeah, I've got to wrap this up. All right, 1,000. Okay, so if you have 1,000 is the largest known number, it just means a lot, like unimaginable number big, right? If you have 144,000, which is 144 times 1,000, it just means everybody, all. It is the vast, complete, sufficient number. It's the biggest number you can think of. It means vast completion. So when we see 144,000 Revelation, we're not talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 144,000. We're talking...
That number is, that, how did you get that number, I wonder?
And the angels probably told him. Because early in Revelation, John says, I saw myriad upon myriad. Huh.
It's a myriad.
Lots.
What letter does it start with?
M.
Thousands times thousands. He doesn't have a number. He's just saying, it's the biggest number I can think of times the biggest number I can think of times the biggest number I can think of. It's myriad upon myriad. It's thousands upon thousands. It's not a number. Like if I said to you 1 billion, I have no concept of that in my brain. Like what's the largest number you can conceptualize? 7? Right. Okay, think about 10 donuts. Can you see it in your mind's eye?
That sounds like a box with 2 stolen out of it.
That's right. Okay, 12 donuts. Can you see it?
Yep.
Can you see 24 donuts?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see 100 donuts?
Now you're talking.
I can't see 100 donuts. I can't conceptualize 100. Right? Now I want you to think about 1,000,000 donuts. It's beyond our conception. Human brains, maybe 25, 30 as we can conceive of. I can see the church where you have 50 people. I can see that in my mind's eye. Maybe 100 is the biggest number you can conceptualize. So when John says it was 144,000, he's not counting. He's conceptualizing. When he says there were myriad upon myriad of angels, he's not saying, well, there was 100,000. He says it was just more than I could see, more than I could count. Yeah. And yet Jesus says, I could have called
Oh, yeah.
10 legions, 10,000 angels, which is a number beyond imagination, 10,000.
Because what does legion mean?
1,000. Yeah. A century, okay. Squirrel. A century is 100. And they were led by a centurion.
Yeah.
He would be a captain of 100 men. Centurion, okay? And then there were 10 centuries in a legion. So you'd have 1,000, right? So 1,000 men made up a legion at its full strength. Now there would always be auxiliaries, but the cohort, the core of the Roman legion was 1,000 men. And it would be led by, who's the head of the legion? There's a centurion.
The legionnaire?
There's it's like decaturian or something. It's this weird deci-10, like a decaturian or something, right? And so when Jesus talks about 1,000, he's talking about 10 legions, which is a phenomenal number of soldiers in that day. I forget how many legions the Roman army actually had. I think he quotes a number bigger than the Romans had. I'd have to do a little history digging on that. Yep. There's I'll wrap this up here. When Augustus comes back, Augustus has been adopted by Julius Caesar. Okay, he is the new, and Julius declares him to be the new emperor. But this, it doesn't go well. So there's a bit of a rebellion, and he flees for his life. He flees to Greece, to that central region. But he wants to come back to Rome to assert his power, to gain control of the empire, because it's been given him by law. And he walks into the Roman Senate, and you can imagine these great stone steps, and all these aged senators in their white robes with their red trim. And they're sitting there debating, who's going to control Rome, and who's going to do this, who's going to do this. And a young Augustus Caesar walks in, and he comes in by himself in his robe, in his senatorial robes. And he says, I declare myself to be emperor. And they say, by what right do you declare yourself to be emperor? And he says, by the right of birth. And then historically they say, and he paused. And he says, and by the right of the legions of Greece. And the legions walked in and just stood there armed. And all the senators went, okay. But by what right do you claim authority, right? By birth and by power, right? Jesus comes along and says, I am the king. By what right do you claim authority? By birth, and he says 10,000 legions upon 10,000 legions of angels. But not only that, he says, I'm the creator as well. As if Augustus himself had given birth to Rome, but he didn't, right? So he claims this triple authority. I am the creator of all things. I am the Son by right of birth and by right of power. I have overcome death itself. So Jesus walks into the great celestial halls of humanity and says, I am king. And we say, by what right do you claim to be king? He says, by birth, by design, and by power. And then all the angels say, unto him who created all things, they fall down and worship. So it's a great parallel event. And so, anyway, all right. We're going to wrap this up because we've gone over time a bit, and I appreciate your questions. We will pick this lesson up with some more examples, and then we're going to talk about the very thing I promised you at the beginning, about why all this stuff is written. Because once you understand the why, the rest makes sense. And that once you understand the why of apocalyptic, then the translation and the meaning for us becomes far more significant. Because that's how it connects with us. All right. Thank you for your involvement. And if you've been watching, thanks. I hope you found this engaging, and we'll see you next week.